to show you. I shot back in 2016 or 2017. I'm not sure which it was actually. But being that I did a video recently about paradoliea, I decided I would show this video again because it is about a hefty stone that I found on a Michigan farm field that I, at the time, and still do now, believe that it is an effigy face. Now, if you look, as you look at the roundness of the head, you can see how it's been packed away, and rather crudely, but how it's been packed away. The markings on the surface are there is some damage from presumably from a plow, but 90% of what you're seeing on there are not plow marks. They're purposely etched in marks by the Native American. It is a face effigy, and it would probably go back to the middle woodland at least. And so take a look at this blast from the past, if you will, and tell me what you think about it. God bless y'all. Love you much. See you again real soon.
I want to thank you all tonight, or today, for stopping by. I want to share with you a rather unique artifact that I picked up actually earlier this year on an old farm field here in Saginaw, Michigan. And it is, well, let me tell you a little bit about it and why it is unique. Before you judge the piece, though, I'd ask that you watch the entire video and look at the stills at the end, okay? Sometimes amazing discoveries are made quite by accident, and such is the case with this particular piece. As I said, I found this piece earlier this year at an old farm site. It is fairly heavy and wedge-shaped. See, it has the wedge shape to it, and I thought at first that it was a maul. The way it was made, due to its weight, I quite nearly left it though where I found it, because for its size, it's very heavy. You know, size-wise, you know, it's not real big, but it's quite heavy. And anyways, I nearly left it, but my friend Gil Alberg offered to carry it for this old timer, and so I brought it home and I placed it on a display shelf with a tag saying where I found it and what my assessment of it, you know, was. But in retrospect, I've heard many times that an artifact with lines ground into it should be viewed in different light to see what might be found, but I never did it. I found quite a number of artifacts with engravings, but they were pretty straightforward. But looking at this piece head on, you can easily see telltale marks that were ground into it. However, there are also plow marks on it that detract from what the Native American person who worked this stone had done. And by the way, it's fairly easy to tell a plow mark. Plow marks are usually sharp and look like what they are, scrapes on the rock surface. Lines ground in have a different appearance. I can show you better on the back of this piece, but if I have time left on here, I'll do that later. Okay. But the other night, I was doing some dusting, and I had an overhead light, reflector light actually, pointing almost directly down, and I moved this artifact to another shelf, and the shadowing was different. And I could not believe my eyes as I said out loud to myself, my God, it's a human face. Not only was there a face, but there were also lines ground in which represented the way the face may have been ornamented or possibly painted. And before I continue, I'm going to use another stone here, and I'm going to tip this slightly forward, and you'll see why in a minute. Perhaps you already see the difference I'm talking about. but I'll point it out more clearly in a moment. Okay. The stone is light tan, granular hard stone. For its size, as I said, fairly heavy. My tape measure has mysteriously vanished, so I estimate it measures about 5.5 inches tall by 4.5 inches across, and thickness varies since it's wedge-shaped, but I'd say 3 to 1.5 inches. And while artifacts like this are fascinating, they really tell us very little, especially when they're found out of context and have been bounced around this particular farm field for over 150 years that it's been farmed off and on. But I do know this site is primarily late woodland, though there are some components of other time periods also. Now, before I speculate on what its purpose may have been, I would like to point out a few things to you if you don't see them yet. These lines, not this one, this line in particular, is a plow mark. But here you'll see what appear to be 2 eye slits ground in. And down here you'll see the nose. And across here, the mouth. Tipping it more, I mean, you can see even more what I'm talking about. There's a V here, and on this side of the V there are circles where the face, I believe, was probably painted. There's a line down here, another one here. These represent decoration that would have been on the face, where maybe a face had been painted, if you will. Now, I'll turn this around, and I'm going to tip it again. I'll turn it towards the light. You see this line here? This is a plow mark. And you'll see how pronounced it is along here. It's cut in. Up here, this is not a plow mark. This was ground in. They weren't doing a whole lot with this side, but there's another semicircle ground in here. This area has been ground down slightly. Hard to see on the video, but nonetheless, a most intriguing piece. And I think from now on, I will more closely look at the grooved pieces that I do find. We can, however, speculate on the intended purpose of the artifact originally, and as I first supposed, this could have been a mall, and its owner ground the image into it just for ornamentation, which sometimes they did, or to personalize it, show that it was his. Or perhaps it is an abstract representation of a prominent member of the tribe, maybe a celebrated warrior, since the face shows decoration. Or maybe it represents a venerated Manitou, or spirit deity. The Native Americans of Michigan had a truly fascinating and colorful lore, and sometimes depictions of the thunderbird or the water panther Mishipishu are indeed found. Of course, this I don't believe is a thunderbird or Mishipishu. I'm just, comparing. But we'll never know for sure. And if we make any call at all, it needs to be made on gut feeling and experience. What does my gut tell me? It's a human face effigy that's been defaced by plow marking. But one lesson I did learn, and I will never forget, is that always check the play of light on a piece that has markings ground on it. So, tell me what you think. I know there will be a lot of people who probably think, well, Dennis, I think you're seeing something that's not there. And that's okay. But I would like to hear from you and what you think of this most intriguing piece found on a late woodland site here in Saginaw area, Michigan. Thank you all for watching. God bless, and you have an awesome evening.